All right, welcome everybody. We are so excited to have you on this panel live streaming session. My name's Jonathan, and I've got with me four amazing, brilliant business minds, and we're going to talk today about AI and specifically about how you can leverage AI in your business to save time, both for you, for your employees, for your team. We believe that AI is just an amazing tool, and we're going to just have a discussion about that today and share with you. Real quick, I'm going to go through the panel and let everybody give kind of a 30-second introduction. So with that, I'm going to start with Max here because you're on my top. So Max, I'll bring you over here. Could you tell everybody just a 30-second intro on yourself?
I'll do my best to keep it to 30 seconds. Thank you for having me today. My name is Max Gabbard. I'm owner of TeamLogic IT here in Kentwood, Michigan, which is in Southwest Michigan near Grand Rapids, for those who are unfamiliar with the area. I've owned this location here for about 6 years. Our job is to provide a variety of different kinds of services, but we really focus on downtime. We focus on helping people get connected. We help make sure that the process is as easy as possible. And then really where my area of expertise is in the area of cybersecurity. So we're a managed service IT provider, but my approach to this business is as a business coach and consultant, and utilizing AI has been an interesting journey, especially since Jonathan and I have started working together. So I'm looking forward to sharing some insights today and learning a little bit more about what everybody else is doing.
Awesome. Thanks, Max. I really appreciate that. Richard, how about yourself? I think, if I'm not mistaken, you're down in warm, sunny Florida. Am I right on that? I know you've been traveling a lot. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Richard Osterud. I'm the owner of Epic 180, and we're in Oldsmar, Florida. We've been dodging hurricanes the last few days. But yeah, I've been doing digital marketing since 1997, and we've had Epic 180, the agency, since 2014. And we're not an MSP, but we help different types of small businesses improve their marketing through digital advertising, AI. Right now, that's really big because it's a way they can automate and save time and save resources also with outreach and also for inbound contact. So yeah, very excited to be here and share information and learn a lot from you guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Richard. I really appreciate that. Jeremy, you're next on track. Can you give us a quick elevator pitch? Tell us about Jeremy.
Yeah. Jeremy Thompson here with Cyber Pros SEO. I've been in the digital online marketing agency world for about 22 years. I'm currently owner of 3 online marketing agencies, and used to own an IT company for about 4 years, and then realized I'm better at marketing them than running them. So sold the company, and it's doing really great. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy helping IT, MSP, and cybersecurity firms really get that upper edge when it comes to doing online marketing. I seriously enjoy it. Jonathan, thanks for having me on today. I'm really thankful for that.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us. I know you got a lot going on. And last but not least, from overseas, we've got Christian with us. Christian, can you give everybody just a quick introduction and a little background on yourself?
Absolutely. Hi, I'm Christian. I've been in affiliate marketing for most of my time as a self-employed, but helping out some larger account like consultancy brokerage firms and Google and PCG to mention a few, with different strategies in terms of marketing, sales, and now also AI, which has catch my interest.
Absolutely. Well, Christian, thank you. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're in Spain, I believe, from when we chatted. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm in Spain at the moment, in Marbella. I'm kind of going back and forth from here and Portugal.
Well, we're thrilled to have you with us, and it's nice to have some international representation for the rest of us over here in the States. So thank you, Christian. We do appreciate that. Well, let's get this panel discussion kicked off by just talking a little bit about some practical ways that businesses can use tools like ChatGPT and Bard and Claude. And I know, it's really easy to go and jump into all of the detailed stuff that we can do and the advanced stuff. But I think for the purposes of today, I'd love to try to stick, and a lot of the questions that I've gotten from the audience have been about what are some practical things I can do? How can I use prompting to do better in my business? And I'll kick it off, and then I'd love you guys to jump in as well. I think one of the most common things I use ChatGPT, and by the way, just so the audience knows, when I say ChatGPT, that could be any tool other than recently Bard, as I think Bard's fallen off the wagon. It's my 2 cents. But when I say that, I'm referring to any AI tool, but I love using the tools to help me write better emails. I'm often in a rush. I've got a lot of emails I need to send out, and sometimes that rush gets the better aspect of me, and I don't take time to necessarily say things in the best possible way. And I find ChatGPT does a great job of allowing me to say, here's what Max sent me. Here's what I want to say. Please write me an email. And then it does a great job of doing that and sending that. I'd love to go around and ask you guys maybe what's the one thing, and I know there's a lot, but one thing that you guys are interested in or that you use the tools for regularly. And I'll kind of follow the same order just so you guys know when I'll call on you. But Max, if you could, what would you say might be one of those things that you say, wow, this is really one of the key ways that I use it and I found AI to be really helpful?
Let me start by saying at the outset that I was one of those guys that had my heels dug in deep when it came to the idea of ChatGPT or AI. I didn't necessarily see the value, didn't necessarily think that it was relevant. Not that it wasn't credible, but I was just having a hard time separating how it was playing out and how it was being characterized in the marketplace, and the questions that I would get from people who had no business asking questions like, what are we going to do with AI in our business? And it didn't make any sense to me. But what was the single most clarifying event that helped me to see the light, I guess, as it relates to Chat GPT and AI in general, was that I was able to characterize my business in a very general way and ask artificial intelligence to provide me with guidance that led to what I'll call a position paper that redefined where I'm focusing my energy and what kinds of things I'm doing for my customers. And so I've organized my business around 4 pillars that came from an amalgamation of my input into the system, but the output of that was basically a roadmap for me for the remainder of this year and then the marketing strategies that I have going forward. In terms of tactics, I've actually created a one-page summary of my business that describes where we focus and what our energy is. And I've also created a really great mission statement that is very similar to what I had before, but really crystallizes and summarizes in a way that has helped me. And then I've taken all of that information and then I've loaded it up into LinkedIn, and LinkedIn has provided its own AI take in terms of its About Us piece. So I'm using it to help me clarify my thinking primarily, and then also leveraging it to produce those quick bits that I need to produce, just like you had said, Jonathan. So whenever I have a B&I presentation to make, or if I have a pitch that I need to make to a customer, I'm asking AI to tell me how I should characterize that and how I can keep it to a limited amount of time.
Makes great sense. So Richard, you and I were talking as we were waiting for the call to get started about one of the things that I use it also for a lot, which is creating social media posts.
Right.
But talk to me a little bit about some of the things that you do, or maybe one of those, I guess, one key thing that you really find AI helps you with, Richard.
I think it helps me a lot, like bouncing back ideas and being a filter to what I want to say. Sometimes we're too close to our services and the problems that customers might have to explain it correctly. Like we assume they know what we know sometimes, and they don't get what we're telling them. So what I've been doing a lot is like grabbing the information, whatever I want to tell them. It's like, sometimes I'm mad and I want them to filter out what I'm going to say before I lose a customer. But telling them, okay, this is just like you're doing, but this is what I want to convey. This is what I want to explain. Tell me how to say that in a way someone in the 7th grade can understand. And that's helped a lot with my communication. My reporting to customers is also much better, because I used to be very like numbers and this and that. And then it's like, here are the numbers, explain it in a simple way So that's been very, very impactful in my business. Customers, I can tell they're happier. They're getting back to me. It was like, oh, I love the report. That's been really good. So that's been really nice. And lately, and I think I mentioned this last week, we started implementing a chatbot with appointment setter chatbot with our customers for all incoming communications. And that, I can't say it is a game changer yet, but I'm sure it's going to be. It's really nice to see how it interacts with any type of communication. And the funny thing, this guy, they have a lawn sprinkler installation service. He boosted a post, I think by mistake. He didn't ask me, and sent everyone to Messenger. And we're getting all these Hispanic people asking for a job. So one of the things we did in the FAQ is like, we're not hiring right now, but they're asking in Spanish, and the bot is responding in Spanish. So no matter what, one guy was Brazilian, was asking in Portuguese, went right back in Portuguese. So that's really interesting to see too.
Well, that's really cool. And I'd definitely like to put a pin in that and talk about that a little bit more later as we talk about some of those integrations. Jeremy, how about yourself? Obviously, a lot of marketing tools and things like that. But what's one thing you find really helpful that has saved you time with ChatGPT?
Well, with our company, one of the things that we really focus on, working with all the individual clients in each of the three niches that we work in, the biggest thing that overall goes into, I don't care what niche you're in, I don't care what it is that you're, who it is you're marketing, or who it is that you're working with, but we like to get everybody to focus on being relational versus informational. But you still need the informational part. You know what I mean? So that's where AI comes real handy in with us, helping us, create content that kind of fills in the gaps in between the parts where we need our clients to really be engaging and be relational, kind of the grunt work part of it, or the monkey work, I guess is a good way to put it, when it goes to, getting the information and the technical data and all that stuff, and then adding the human element to it, or changing and adjusting it to make it more engaging and more relational. And that's where we have found it to be a lot helpful. But if you really think about it, all of us have been using AI actually for a few years now. We just didn't know it up until, of course, ChatGPT, is definitely in your face about it. But, sites like Facebook, Canva, even Photoshop, apps, programs, there is a little bit of AI that's intertwined in every single one of these programs, and it's all geared to the point of the consumer, which is us or our customers, making things easier, better to do, more efficient. It's just now gone to a much higher level, here recently. But yeah, that gives you an idea of what we use AI for, and the things that we integrate it with.
Oh, I appreciate that, Jeremy. That's fantastic. And Christian, how about you in day to day? What's one thing that you found these tools help you do to save time?
I use it quite a lot.
Christian, how about you
both in
day to day? What's one
presentations.
thing that you found these tools?
Is there a legacy for?
Yep, we've got a little. Yeah, I can hear my voice coming back about 10 seconds later.
Yeah.
Probably just a little feedback from the microphone or the speaker there.
Yeah, let's try again and see if
Go ahead.
I use it quite a lot. I map out outlines in content that I produce. I use it in my prospecting. It still keeps shocking me sometimes, what we're able to do with this lovely new technique that we have in front of our hands. I was doing a prospecting, trying to find out on a specific market, a couple of clients, what they have for email solution today. And the best way to do that would be to look at the MX record, which is the pointer of the traffic on the domain for you who don't know. And I needed a Google Apps script to check that for given email addresses. And it did it with perfection. you just take it straight from the prompting and into Google Apps script, and it did the whole job for me, which is something that I normally would have used somebody from Fiverr with skill set for that to do it for me or similar. Like, so there is so much more that you can have on demand right now with this assistant on your side all day.
Absolutely.
That before used to be a cost, or in terms of time to spend on conversation on an email with someone to fix that for you. Now you can get it instant. So yeah, I'm big preacher on it, and try to keep up to date on different softwares and people utilizing the API to get a broader picture on what we can do with this technique.
Really good examples. Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that. There's some great examples. I know one of the things that a lot of people have asked, and most of you guys saw, I posted some questions on social media and reached out to one of the groups I'm in and said, hey, what type of questions would you guys want answered? One of the most common has been about what is this prompting thing, and how do I prompt ChatGPT and Claude and tools like that to give me information? And I know one of the things that I often recommend is just talk to it like you would an assistant that's working for you. Literally, have a conversation with it, explaining what you want. If you guys had one tip for prompting and how to ask ChatGPT or Claude to do something, I'm going to go round robin here, but anybody that's interested, who's got a tip on a simple tip? If you haven't been using ChatGPT or you're not sure, what's one of the prompting tips that you guys might want to share that you think would be helpful to the group? Anybody got any tips you want to jump in and share on? Yeah, Jeremy, go ahead.
There is a huge difference between an exclamation point and a question mark. When you type in there and you put an exclamation point, you're going to get a different output than if you put an actual question mark. That I learned the hard way.
Good. And that's a great example. It matters how you talk to it.
And quotations too. Quotations matter as well, because especially ChatGPT can be very literal. But when you're talking about a specific subject or an item, or what a noun, person, place, or thing, and you're referring to that, I find that putting quotation marks around it really helps the AI engine really hone down to put out the, it's the same thing with anything, trash in, trash out.
Sure.
So you want to make sure you're very specific, and but quotations and question marks and punctuation, man, that really goes a long way.
Awesome. Great tip. Anybody else got a daily? Yeah. Richard, go ahead.
What I learned, and I think I learned it from you probably, it was that something that a lot of people don't do, they give them instructions, and sometimes they're really bad instructions. And again, as he said, crap in, crap out. But if you tell them, this is what I want to do, ask me all the questions you need to give me the best response.
I love that one.
That's great, because sometimes you're just giving them like very brief instructions, and they could provide a much better output if you give them more detailed information. And that way you're telling them, okay, let me know, what do you need to give me the best output? That's a great one. I think that's a game changer for me.
No, and I agree with you. That's actually one of my favorite things. And just if you didn't quite catch that, when you do your prompt, at the end of the prompt, simply ask ChatGPT, if you need any additional information in order to provide me with the best response, please ask, and then allow me to respond before you give me your answer. And it's amazing how the type of clarifying questions ChatGPT will use really is absolutely amazing. Max, I saw you had something there. What's on your mind?
Well, this is kind of a summary of my experience, where I started with the idea of ChatGPT or any of the engines as being sort of like a search engine, and it really isn't that. It isn't really a research tool in the sense that you're going to find out information specific to yourself. So I asked, what do you know about Max Gibbard from TeamLogic IT? And of course it said, well, I don't have any information loaded about TeamLogic IT, and I don't know anything about Max Gibbard. So you're not important enough for me to understand. So that was a learning. And I kind of went through an evolution where I said, okay, well, give me some marketing messages for that. And it gave me some generic marketing messages. And then I was able, through my own thinking, to clarify a starting point. And that context was really important in driving the outcome that I received. So, starting with, here's my take on it. Now you tell me what you think, or you tell me what your interpretation of that is. And I'm speaking of it as if it's a person, and it's really not, but it really feels that way when you're interacting with them. But bottom line is that context is really important. Giving me the guidance around the specifics of what I'm looking for, and then taking that information and asking it very generically to make it better, or to give me another shot at it, or to give me another alternative. I even have said things like, that sounds kind of hokey to me. So that kind of thing is been my experience, although I haven't quite honed how to get the most out of it, other than taking what I've already gotten out of it and making it better.
Makes great sense. So just so everybody on the panel knows, as we're learning how to use these tools as well, we have a private chat, guys, that's available for us. Just so if you want to raise your hand, so I'm not always calling on everybody, don't hesitate in that private chat window just to let me know you want it, and I'll make sure that you get on the call there for that. So Max, you were just talking about search engines, and I think that's actually one of the really important things to point out, is that ChatGPT and Bard and those, they are not traditional search engines. But there is a tool that we often don't talk about as often, and that's called Perplexity, or perplexity.ai, if you guys are familiar with it. And one of the things that I love about that tool is it is an AI-based search engine. The key difference, though, is instead of when you Google something, it gives you a bunch of sites to go look at. And that's great. We've gotten so used to that over the last, 20 years. Perplexity, I think, is really the next step. And it's also, I want to talk in a moment about how ChatGPT tends to hallucinate. But Perplexity is a great way to go in and get an answer, because it brings up similar sites to like Google. But instead of just letting you go visit those sites, it actually summarizes the data on those 4 to 6 sites and gives you an answer, and then provides you the link. I think it's really an interesting change in SEO and how that's working. Do any of you guys have any experience with Perplexity? Anybody's used it at all? Not really. I'm the odd man out then. But yeah, check that out if you want to do search. Perplexity.ai is a great tool for that. The other question that I want to talk about, as I mentioned, is we've probably all heard how ChatGPT tends to play a little loose sometime with the facts. In fact, it's often called hallucinating, because it will make things up out of thin air. It's sometimes, if anybody of you guys have ever talked to a 3-year-old, and you know how that 3-year-old can sometimes say things with total belief and be totally full of you-know-what. I have no idea what they're talking about. That, by the way, can apply to older kids too. I'm not just saying 3-year-olds, but I've noticed ChatGPT has a tendency to do that. Does anybody have any tips or recommendations on how they fact check, or what needs to be fact checked when you're doing things with ChatGPT? I know I always try to check dates and specific numbers. So, if I'm querying and it's saying 35% of the people in the US do this, or 70% of car drivers do that, I always try to run that through Google or Perplexity to verify and confirm that, because sometimes that number is nowhere in reality. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not. Any tips there, guys? Anybody want to jump in and have a tip about how to best fact check ChatGPT and when we need to do that?
Sometimes what I do is just adding to my query, add references to it. That's very simple, but it will put the links to where it got the information from. And you can check it directly there. That's
a great idea. When you do that, Richard, because ChatGPT doesn't instinctively or natively have web access, are you using like the Web Pilot plugin or something like that?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and for those of you that don't know, keep in mind, so ChatGPT doesn't natively go out and search the web. Perplexity does. ChatGPT does not. its data is stopped. Anybody remember the date? I want to say it's end of 2021. Is that right? The data that it's supposedly searched on. Does that seem right?
Yeah.
That's what
So-
it said to me multiple times. Yeah.
Yeah. It may not have the most up-to-date information, but ChatGPT has plugins. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick a minute. I'm going to show everybody what that looks like. If I can find the right window here a minute. I think that is it. Let's find out here as I share my screen. So there we go. So this is a ChatGPT window. Oh, it's not sharing. What's going on here?
I'm not sharing. Yeah.
Let's try that again. Sometimes technology does not work the way we want it to. There we go. I got to let the screen share in. There we go. So here is a screenshot of ChatGPT. And if you want to find out how this works, you can go up into ChatGPT here. You have to be a paid subscriber. So I am using the Plus version. But notice when I get here, I have plugins. And I can select the plugins here. And I have 2 of them turned on right now. But if you click this drop down, you can enable 3 plugins at a time. And there are lots and lots of plugins. Just go to the plugin store. To the best of my knowledge, they're all free. And you can put all kinds of things in here. The one that I use a lot is called Web Pilot. And that actually gives ChatGPT web access. Now, I know there's somebody sitting there going in the background and going, hang on, Jonathan, Microsoft just invested billions of dollars in here. What happened to their access? Because originally when ChatGPT came out, it had Bing access. That got turned off about 2 months ago, I think it was, apparently for delivering some erroneous results. But you still can use, again, some of those tools in order to do that. So highly recommend that if that works. There are also, if you use Chrome or Firefox, there are browser extensions that you can use with ChatGPT to give it web access. So something to be aware of. Good stuff. Jeremy, you mentioned you want to talk about some SOPs that you follow and that you utilize a little bit. Let me bring you up here on the screen. Can you kind of share with us, from your perspective, what are some of the standard operating procedures you abide by and that you follow in order to make sure you're getting the best response out of ChatGPT?
Okay, first of all, you have to know exactly what you're looking for in that job position. You know, like for us, when we go to hire a web developer or a social media, account representative, or even like a customer service person, quasi, digital marketing assistant, things of that nature. And you have to know what you need first, what you want first, and then very easy to go in. We've gone in there. We've done SOPs on web developers, social media directors, account executives, SEO, SEO assistants, everything, reputation management, account manager, things of that nature. And then, you put in exactly what you're looking for, but then always add to it, must have, Photoshop and AI experience, must have this, must have, but not required, a marketing degree or associate's degree, things of that nature. And it will pretty much 95%, like Christian was saying earlier, hits the nail on the head every time. Pretty much 95% of the time puts it together like perfectly. It even includes a few things that I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. That would be a great idea. I need to have that in place. Okay, we're going to make it so, it's really, really great. As long as you tell it what you're looking for. Now, to go and maybe do kidney surgery on your dog, which, just to play around, I typed in there once. It will tell you, I'm sorry, I'm not equipped, and you should seek, a medical veterinarian person to do that operation. But when it comes to changing out fuel injectors on, say, a 2013 Range Rover HSE, man, it'll give you explicit instructions on exactly step by step, disconnect battery, undo the fuel lines, even down to which screws you need to undo first and in what order. I found that I just put that in one time just to see what it would tell me, and really surprised, And even down to the point of telling me which fuel injectors were the best ones that I should get for my year model based on data that I guess the AI already had on all these different models, And but yeah, SOPs, I mean, 95% of the time. But I do realize that you do have to know what you want in that person, in that, especially if you follow the EOS model and you got your different, seats, and you know what that seat should do and what that seat should accomplish and what kind of results that you want. Add that to what it is that you're looking for into just to go in there and say, I'm looking for an SOP for a web developer. I'm very specific. I need Joomla web developer who's experienced in Photoshop, experienced in PHP, HTML, CSS, all the different things that I need for them to know. And almost literally perfect.
No, and I think you make a really good point there, Jeremy. In fact, one of the best practices that I know I encourage people to do a lot is don't hesitate to have follow-up prompts. You can ask ChatGPT a question and then ask it to clarify, ask it to add into that, ask it to make changes or expand on that. Another prompt that I love to use is after I ask it to write something. I just did this earlier today. We have a new service that we're promoting, and as part of that, I'm having to create a lot of the emails that are going out to communicate with our clients along the way. And I wanted it to explain that we're running into an issue where some people aren't getting back to us in a timely manner, and that's delaying the project. So I wanted it to write a nice email to basically say, hey, Jeremy, I understand that you're busy, but we're going to proceed anyway, because we need to do that in order to meet our timelines. And it did a great job of doing that. But then I asked it, like we're talking, what would you do to improve that? And it did a great job of actually continuing to give us information on that, expanding on that original email, adding some new stuff in. It does a great job of analyzing itself. So, Max,
I think that's really important.
Sure, yeah, go ahead, Richard. No, go ahead.
No, following on the multi-prompting, I think it's really important to do these follow-up prompts. We do this a lot when we're doing the persona for the companies we're working with, and we start out like, okay, who would be the avatar? What are their fears? What would other people tell them? What would they think about this? And build upon it. And in the end, when we have like everything, it's like 5 pages long, what we do is tell them, okay, now that you have all this information, build a summary of this persona that we can use to feed back to you. So when we're creating content in the future, you can reference it in the best manner, because it's so big that you can't put everything in one big prompt. But with that summary, it's really, really good, and it's really powerful. Multi-prompting, I think, is really important, and it can be as simple as those follow-up questions you're saying, or elaborating more and more and more, going deeper and deeper.
No, very good point. I think that makes a ton of sense overall as we take a look at that. So Max just brought up an interesting point in the chat, talking about what about the ethics? What about how the bad guys are using it? And I know there's been a ton of talk overall about all the dangers of AI. And I'll be the first to admit, I don't tend to get too drawn into those, because I think any technology has good and bad going for it. There are criminals that use the internal combustion engine to commit crimes, and there are many of us that use it to commute nowadays. So there's lots and lots of stuff going on. Richard, I get with you totally on the phone. Phones can be used for good, they can be used for bad. But Max, I'd love to bring you in and get a little of your perspective on that, especially as an IT professional. I think you've got a different perspective than some of us as marketers may have. Talk to us a little bit from your perspective, Max, about some of those risks and some of the ethics side of AI, if you wouldn't mind.
At one point, I saw a flag that said I was on mute, but I guess I'm not on mute now. So.
Oh, yeah. When you type, I had it mute because that clicks through. So you're good.
I apologize.
No, it's all right.
What I was going to say is that increasingly, the whole concept of cybersecurity and protecting our customers, which is the core pillar of our business, and any managed service business, any IT business, frankly, any business management person needs to be focused on data security and people security more than a lot of things.
Absolutely.
In business. So but what we're seeing is it's becoming more and more sophisticated, and it's becoming more and more sophisticated because the bad guys are using the AI engines to find their way around obstacles that they may not have been able to overcome on their own. But what I think is the most exciting thing is that there are so many tools and resources and vendors that are coming up with more comprehensive ways to analyze not only the history of what has happened within a company. So we know that this signature of a virus has come through in 1998 and it has existed and it behaves this way and it has all this information attached to it. But it's actually doing a lot more heuristic analysis and a lot more behavioral analysis to determine whether or not the person that's using that device is getting themselves into trouble, as opposed to just looking at the data that's passing in and out of that device. And I think that's really important. And as we get more and more in line with some of the cybersecurity standards that are out there, you may have heard of NIST or the Center for Internet Security or a variety of different kinds of places that are basically taking a stand and saying there are levels of given cybersecurity protection that needs to be in place depending on the type of business that you're in business, and depending on the type of compliance that you need to support. And so sooner or later, we're all going to be required to invest and make a priority the protection of our assets, both people and data. And that can't happen with a sort of flat traditional, I'll call it, antivirus program. There has to be more proactive monitoring that goes along with that.
I think that's a really, really good point. I'd love to get your perspective. We know the AI tools actually share data. Well, I don't want to say share data, but they suck up all that data and they're using it to learn. As people are using these AI tools, what quick 3 tips or so could you share, and anybody else you're welcome to jump in too, on how users can best protect themselves? I'll jump in with the most obvious, which is, don't put your passwords into ChatGPT, because that is ultimately, while it's not being shared with the public, it's being utilized to train the engine. And at some point, somehow your password may show up in some context. So there's some things we just don't want to do. Any other best practices that, Max, you've got, or anybody else can think of? Jeremy, I saw you nodding your head, that you guys can think of from how do users protect their privacy while using these tools?
Well, I think you have to be careful not only about your personal privacy. So certainly anything personal related to you, any identifier, any kind of password, any kind of username, any kind of address, location, the things that could point back to you are certainly things that you don't want to share publicly. We hear all the time where people say, well, don't share that you're on vacation on Facebook until you get back, because you don't want anybody to know that you're on vacation, and that makes you vulnerable physically in physical security sense. So that kind of thing it kind of goes without saying. I think that you just have to be purposeful about what information you're sharing, and go into it with the idea that you will share that information, but understand that anything that you share is going to end up in somebody else's hands at some other point. And the other thing I would say is that the number one way that people get themselves in trouble from a cybersecurity perspective is through human error. And that most often happens because of some kind of a phishing test or some kind of a phishing email that comes through. Somebody clicks on the wrong button and it brings their network down, or somebody has a username that might be attached to a thermostat or one of these Internet of Things devices that opens a door into a network. And so the social engineering aspect of that is where it starts to get really scary. So if you've used the same password on 10 different websites, and one of them happens to be your bank, and somebody socially engineers the password to Facebook because you're using the same password for Facebook as you are for the bank, ChatGPT could probably get that information pretty quickly and the bad guys can get that information and apply it to the bank and get access to your financial information. So that social side of it is where a lot of the magic is happening on the cybersecurity side, and we really have to be diligent about how we manage through that.
No, a really good point, and I think it's an important thing to talk about and be aware of, because I don't think a lot of people think that through. Jeremy, you had a couple things you wanted to add on that. What are your thoughts as it comes to privacy and security?
When it comes to cybersecurity, SOX compliance is just not going to cut it. Not when it comes to AI. You know, your A+ security, all that stuff. I mean, it's forcing, and correct me if I'm wrong, Max, but it is forcing the cybersecurity industry to, I mean, we think we had it bad before in that industry, just keeping up with everything because of all the latest technology and stuff that's coming out. Dude, AI is a game changer. It is not football as usual. It's the yards are now, you know, they're not complete yards anymore. The goalposts aren't exactly where they were before. It's like, you know, the football field is spinning in directions now. You don't even know which way you're running when we're talking about cybersecurity and AI. And I mean, honestly, Max, dude, you freaking hit the nail on the head. And that is, I think that there's going to be opportunities for cybersecurity companies to start developing little mini agencies or divisions or departments that specifically focus and deal with AI related things. I mean, it's gonna have to happen. I mean, come on, how many hats do we wear already? And to expect a cybersecurity firm to, you know, wear that hat as well? No, they're gonna have to start training their people up in what's going on in there. I mean, hold on, did you guys see the Joe Rogan AI thing where they basically mimicked Joe Rogan's voice from his podcast and actually created a whole new 15-minute episode of Joe Rogan, and it was not Joe Rogan. And Joe Rogan knew this was being done, and he even said, hey, this is not me. This is not my voice, but how amazing is it that you guys actually, amazing as in, you know, awe, as in, you know, wow, this is kind of scary, you know, and now you're getting, you know, AI automatically where it's mimicking the mom's voice or the child's voice, and it calls the mom and says, Mom, I need help. You know, somebody's kidnapped me and you need to show up here with $500,000 or they're going to, you know, hurt me or whatever. And it sounds just like the daughter's voice and the mom thinks it's the daughter, but it's not. It's AI. We're going to need some cybersecurity people that can, you know, either hook up with the people that are creating AI and figure out, you know, hey, how can we develop a whole new level and area of security to protect people all over the world, you know, to protect companies and you know, I'm sorry, I hate to say this, you know, but I think our government's going to have some sort of a division with that as well. You know, we came up with Homeland Security after 9/11. Hey, I think the time is ticking. I think, you know, I mean, I'm not trying to be doom and gloom, but something big, you know, eventually is going to happen with AI that is probably going to cause another government department to be created on keeping this as much as we may or may not like that. But I think it's we should get in front of the ball, you know, and be a little bit more proactive. But I think it also takes us being responsible too in how we use it and how we teach others to use it. You know, I think there's a realm of that where we just, you know, hey, let's just be good humans and let's just be responsible to what we do with AI.
No, I think you make some good points there, Jeremy. Max, you, I think, got a couple more things you wanted to add in that before we go on.
One last minor
free.
point, and I don't want to belabor this point at all, and I certainly don't want your audience to take this as a fear-mongering sort of a message, because it is real, but obviously it isn't intended to be a scary thing. It's intended to be a how do we get better at this kind of thing. But what I would say is for all the complexity, for all of the things that we're talking about, when it comes to artificial intelligence, it absolutely has the opportunity and will change the game when it comes to cybersecurity monitoring. It'll change the game in terms of regulation. It'll change the game in terms of what's inbounds and out of bounds in terms of how we leverage technology and so on. But it's just still too easy for people to get access to systems that they shouldn't get access to. It is as simple as somebody making that mistake, posting a password in the wrong place, reusing a password, or doing something like that. So you can take all of this complexity away, but at the end of the day, if we don't have just the basic diligence and the basic sort of mindset that says we're going to go after this and we're not going to let people get after us, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that we're in a good place to be able to monitor it and respond to it. Ultimately, it's not an if something happens, it's a when something happens, but then the response to that is the key thing to measure.
Well, I think those are all really good points that everybody's making and adding in. And my mouse just decided to die as I decided to click on the window there. Let's see if we can get to, there we go. Got to love it when technology is cooperating. But I think those are some really good points. At the same time, and Richard and Christian, I'd love your perspective as the non-IT guys as well. But I want to encourage everybody that AI, as we're talking about it here, is here. It's not going away. Despite the government's best wishes on some cases, this genie is out of the bottle. It's not going back in the bottle. So I think as entrepreneurs and business owners and sales professionals, IT folk, whomever we are that's listening, I think we have the opportunity to use it for good, to be able to leverage it, to be able to create new opportunities. And I want to remind everybody that everything that happens, whether, again, that was the internal combustion engine or the internet when it first came out. I remember, I'm old enough, not everybody on the call probably is, but I remember before we had an internet, before we could look things up. And that changed so many things, not just in the IT world, but around the world. But it also created a tremendous number of opportunities. And I want to take just a moment here. And again, Richard and Christian, I'd love your perspective. As you look forward, obviously there's always a balancing scale, but what type of opportunities do you guys see coming down in the future that business owners should be taking a look at to make sure they're not caught flat-footed, they're not caught and left behind? Because I don't believe AI is going away, despite, again, some people's wishes. It's here. Candidly, it creates too many efficiencies. What are some of the opportunities that you guys see coming down? Anybody got any thoughts on that?
You want to go first, Richard?
Okay, yeah, basically, I mean, something really important is for people to be educated about the topic, and that's why these type of calls are super important. Not going back to the doom and gloom, but I mean,
that's okay.
The old idea of seeing is believing is no longer true. So you see the deep fakes, the voices, as Jeremy was saying, like you can't trust what you're seeing, what your eyes are seeing nowadays. So the more you learn about it, and it can be something as simple like people are doing now. They're sending fake Geek Squad emails, and we're charging you. And then if you have any problem, call us here. That's very basic. Like you feel safe because you're calling a number. A lot of people feel safe because they're chatting with support online, or they're using this AI tool. They don't know that that tool is set up by someone who's trying to get the screwing out of their information and whatever else they can do. So yeah, education is key here. And for businesses, I think not only the opportunity of all the good things they have to do, they have to be really aware of how they have to educate their own employees, their own staff. Because as Max was saying, I think 80%, I'm not sure the amount, but the number, but
70,
social engineering is staggering, and it's like one of the easiest ways to get into a system. So yeah, people have to be aware of that. Businesses have to be aware of that. And again, it's a big opportunity for MSPs too.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Christian, obviously, I'd love to hear your perspective, both from an international perspective, but also, you've worked with a lot of very large companies and you've been doing a lot of work with that. What's your perspective on both the opportunities and the risks as we carry on this conversation?
I think on the opportunity side, definitely that, we have a way now where we can be at some points 10 times more productive and more skilled than we ever were before. And with some creativity and some structure for how you use your prompts and in what types of situations, you can become so much more effective. And what we see is if you apply that in the form of education and you spread that throughout the company to your different departments and identify what opportunities you have on each specific department, you can achieve things where you normally would have to have a meeting with your UI, your UX, and you would have to have your meeting with your developers to see how you could structure this and how you could build it and for what budget, and maybe get a sign off of that budget. Today is like, here, pay 29 USD a month, and you have this amazing tool that takes care of 90% of your problems if you know how to use it, sort of say. So there's of course a way to make your whole growth engine and your operations so much more effective by educate internally and make sure that people start to become interested and engaged. And I also to jump into the security part of the conversation that you had previously here. I think by letting people know more about it and use it, they can come in the discussion with a maybe more realistic point of view of what AI is, and we can have a discussion on how we regulate it and put some form of protection out there for in terms of the cybercrimes that's going on. And a little tips, you come a long way with two-factor authentication, like text or an authenticator app on your phone today, to make sure that no one can get into systems are getting in. So both from a private perspective, me as a user using other services, that if that option is available, it could be a good thing to use if you have sensitive information on the other side of the login wall. And if you're on the other side, you're building application and you want to keep your users safe, make sure that you have that option, text or authentication instead of plain text password in databases, etc. is not a good thing today.
No, really, really good information there. And I think good feedback from everybody. I want to really thank you for that input. I promised you guys when I asked you on the panel interview that we weren't going to go ahead and go over 45 minutes. We're already at 53. So I want to ask a wrap up of everybody. And that is to kind of go back to the title of our goal today, which was how can we use AI to save 63 minutes? And we're going to go over time. That's all right. If you're with us, it's great. But I know we've had some people that have stuck with us through the entire live event, and I'd love to make sure we address that question for them specifically. So I'm going to kind of go around. You guys can go in any order you want. I'll bring you up on the screen. But let's talk for just a moment, if we can, about what you believe or how you believe you can use AI to save 63 minutes a day. And I say 63 because 60 just seems so normal. So 63, I mean, let's face it, it's not that much longer. And what can we do there? I'll be happy to lead off if need be, but does anybody want to jump into that as we get ready to wrap things up for our final question? Jeremy, you ready? All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring you up on screen. Tell us, Jeremy, from your perspective, I need to save 63 minutes tomorrow. How can I use AI to do that?
Training. Use it for training. Oh my gosh. If I don't have to sit with you and train you how to do something within our system, and I have all that put together, with the utilization of AI, easy, all day long.
Awesome tip. Absolutely. 100% agreed. Absolutely. Who wants to go next? Anybody want to jump in next? All right, Richard, go ahead.
I'd say with customer support, that's really useful, easy to teach, easy to build, and it can take so much time off someone's day answering, and sometimes it's just stupid questions or people. I mean, with this company we were implementing it with, it's crazy to see all the crazy people coming in and saying stuff that is totally unrelated to the business, but it would be taking someone's time if they were actually manually responding to this, at least to tell them, hey, sorry, buzz off. But yeah, with AI, you can save a lot of time with that. You could probably save one or a couple of people that are doing customer support.
Awesome. Great idea. Max or Christian, any thoughts you guys want to jump in with on that? Max, I'll bring you across. I think I saw you making a move there. If not, I'm going to put you on the spot. What do you think? I want to save 63 minutes tomorrow. Now, I'd love to hear your perspective as an IT professional. Sure. If I'm an IT professional versus just business, what might I be able to use AI for tomorrow to save that hour?
I will tell you that we had a very sticky issue with a setup and system using Microsoft Azure in the cloud, and couldn't figure out what was going on. And I fed the symptoms into ChatGPT, and it spit out an answer that guided me in the questions that we needed to ask the vendor, and got that system resolved. So I don't know if it saved us 63 minutes or 600 minutes, but it certainly was well worth the time. I think that there's just a treasure trove of information, and you can sort out on Reddit.com all the different ways that people have solved things, and you can sort out on the internet the ways that things have done that, or you can collaborate with groups of people. But you're limited by the bandwidth of that particular source. So I think ChatGPT is much more endless and much more infinite in terms of its resource. That being said, I think the power of AI is that you save 21 times 3 minutes as opposed to 63 minutes at a time. I mean, I think your speed, your throughput, your response time, all of those things can be improved just by going through that. I know that for me, I developed a marketing message that probably would have taken me a number of back and forth with an editor and a one-page document and some information about us that I probably would have taken days to create, and it literally was about a 4-hour process for me. So it was, and it was with my input. It wasn't as if I just took the gospel truth of what was coming out of ChatGPT, but I actually put my own spin on it and then challenged the system to come up with something better based on that. So I think ultimately we're still in charge, and we need to find ways to save 3-4 minutes at a time and leverage the tool to make that work. And ultimately, I think it's going to add up to way more than 63 minutes a day.
Well, I would say fantastic advice. You're right. It shouldn't be one prompt that saves 63 minutes, but it could be 20 prompts over the course of the day, each one that saves 5 or 10 minutes. It really add up tremendously over the course of the day. Christian, how about you? Anything you want to share in your mind as, again, best ways to save time, be more efficient with ChatGPT?
But definitely, I used to run a video production company back in 2009, I think, and it's a lot of logistic doing video the old traditional way. You have cameramans, you have people dealing with sound, with makeup, with light, with so everything have to set on a production day and get everybody out there in time. And if it's raining, you might have double cost because you need to do it another day when you have the sunshine again. There is just a lot of risk in that type of production if you want to be profitable. And with AI and some of the stuff that's come along with I think the early release of ChatGPT and the API, stuff like MidJourney and Runway ML, and it's just a bunch of softwares today where you can play around and get cool enough video material or visuals which you couldn't get if you want to prove just like 1-2 years back, and that is really a game changer in marketing. That you can now push your messages in a much more creative way than you might been able to before without a designer, without some type of expertise and a lot of equipment. So that's both money and time saved, and a lot of headaches of coordinating a lot of people. So for me that's a big game changer, doing affiliate marketing and constantly pushing content.
Well, and you make a really good point, and that's actually going to be my tip is everybody, we, especially as business owners, we often don't have the time to put in and create the type of content that we want and the amount of content. And specifically, Richard and I were talking about this earlier, when it comes to social media content, let's face it, it's hard. If you guys pay attention to some of the authorities online, your Gary Vaynerchuks and other people like that, they're literally recommending that you post 10 to 20 posts per day. We don't have enough time to do that, folks. I don't know about you, but I mean, there's not enough hours in the day for me to do that. But I can tell you a way that you can get closer to that than where you're at now, which is maybe a couple posts a week, is you can use tools like ChatGPT to help you create those posts. And you can use ChatGPT to give you ideas so that you can do that. Richard's in my group. I know a number of you guys are in my AI group. And one of the things I've been doing this week is putting together examples, practical examples of how you can use ChatGPT, what prompts to use for different departments, your HR department, your sales department, your marketing department, your accounting team, all those things. I use ChatGPT to write every single one of those. And I put out between when I started on Tuesday and when they end about a week from Tuesday, there's going to be over 60 posts that are put out. Now, I know that's not the 20 a day, but that's still a bunch of them. And I did those all in about 2 hours using ChatGPT. And that's something that would have normally taken hours and hours and hours. So if you're looking for a simple win, first, I want to really encourage you what Max said. Find some simple prompts that you can save 3 minutes at a time with. Those will do wonders. And the second thing I want to encourage you to do, try it. If you're not using ChatGPT, you're not using the tools, go out today. There's still time left, even on the East Coast. It's only 2 o'clock. I know it's a little bit late for Christian, but everybody else it's good for. Go in and ask it to create some social media prompts for you. Give it your audience. Tell them what you want to share and say, give me 5 posts that are going to be of interest to people looking to hire a roofer in Indianapolis. And it'll do amazing things. You can then do a follow-up and you can have those 5 posts done literally in under 10 minutes. And then you can put them up online. It's great. So guys, I want to thank everybody for joining. Before you run though, I want to encourage you to stick around for just a minute because we've also got a free bonus for everybody that decided to join us today. Everybody's chipped in. There's different things coming from everybody. I know Max in specific has got a great offer I'm going to ask him to share about. I'm going to give you guys a summary. One of the questions that came up again earlier was, how do we use this specifically, Jonathan? What can we do? And so I'm going to give you a list for each department in your company, and probably a few that you don't have, what prompts you can use in order to be more efficient. Because I want you not only to learn how to use this yourself, but I want you to share it with your team. Because it's one thing if you can save an hour a day. Imagine if everybody on your team could be productive enough to save an extra hour a day, and what that can mean to your efficiencies, your productivity, and your profitability. So that's what I'm going to give away. Max, you had something great as well. Would you mind giving us just a quick reminder of what it is you're going to do? And then I'm going to share the link. In fact, I'll share that while you're talking. I'm going to put a QR code and a link up here. If you guys are interested, go ahead and click on the QR code or follow this link. Max, can you tell us just a little bit about what you're going to be giving away?
Sure. I've included the TeamLogic IT authored a small and mid-sized business survival guide to coping with cybersecurity. And I'll take that one step further. If you are a small or mid-sized business and you're looking for some practical training, if you will, around maybe a lunch and learn type topic or a continuing education topic for a professional association, I would be happy to offer a 1-hour session online through a web medium or locally here if there's somebody in the Grand Rapids area that would be interested in that. But I'd be happy to offer a 1-hour session to educate your internal and external users on what's hot in the cybersecurity market, but also some practical tips for how to manage through that process. I would only ask that it not be a group of competitors with my firm, and it be an audience of people that are receptive to hearing the kinds of things that we might be able to offer as a organization to help them. But I definitely, free of charge, would like to provide that education to the marketplace and to everybody out there.
Max, thank you for that's an incredibly generous offer. I really appreciate making that to everybody that stuck with us on the webinar today. I just had a comment come in, and I'm going to add one thing. They asked if I would. Richard, I know you're familiar with this, and Jeremy, I think you saw it. I recently put out a video on how to use AI tools using ChatGPT and using Canva, a tool we didn't talk much about, got mentioned briefly, to bulk create a month's worth of social media posts in under 15 minutes. And I did a video on that. I walk you through. I'll include that as another bonus as well. So if you go to that link at whitebeardstrategies.com/AI panel bonuses, not only will you get the guides on how you can use it in every department, not only will you get Max's amazing offer to do a lunch and learn and help you guys, because Max is brilliant when it comes to IT stuff. Don't hesitate to take him up on that. And Richard just messaged me that he's also got a lunch and learn video that he had recently presented. Richard, can you tell us just a little bit about that so they know what else this bonus keeps getting better and better? Tell us just a little bit about that video. What are you going to share with everybody?
It's basically 2 videos, 2 lunch and learns I did at the local chamber. It's very basic stuff, but it explains how it came to be, how to use it, the risks, and some prompts on how they can apply it in their business. So I think that can be useful for someone who is just starting out, who doesn't know much about ChatGPT. And I love to share them. I'll send you the links for them after the call.
Thank you. Thank you. And just a reminder again to everybody, just go to whitebeardstrategies.com/AI panel bonuses. We will send you everything, send you links. You can download it. You can use it. Guys, there's a tremendous amount of just knowledge on this panel. And I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us today. Guys, you guys are awesome. I think it was a great discussion. I really enjoyed it. Would love to do another one of these. If you're interested, we'll definitely talk about that. And check down in the comments if you're watching this live on the replay. I'm going to post everybody's contact information as well. So if you want to reach out and talk to Richard or Christian or Max or Jeremy, even me, if you want to talk to me, I'll put all that information there so you guys can get a hold of us and chat. I know all of us would love to provide value to you. So with that, make it a great day, everybody. Enjoy and challenge yourself. Use AI to try to save a few minutes each day, and imagine how different and how much more time you might have a month from now. Guys, with that, make it a great day. Take care, and we will see you guys on the other side. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.